I talked to David today in prepping for coming on here, and I said to David that basically I think of David as my kid because he's done like every parent done. He's done everything that I ever wanted to do in my life. He's gone on and done it.
It's a tough gig. I mean, but I always wonder what separates, there are plenty of unbelievable actors out there that never get recognized for anything and they never get picked up for a role. So how do you, is it luck?
I think it's a combination. It's a combination.
It's both.
Because you're still doing the auditions and stuff, right, Joe?
But I didn't start
at 13 like David did.
It's 13 like David did.
I think it's David.
Oh, he's going to have something to say.
Hey, David.
Hey.
Hey, David, how you doing?
Hey.
Let me pull
How's it
David.
going?
Let me get David on the screen
It's
here.
the hair here.
Let's capture this. There
Yeah, I got to fix mine too.
There we go. David, we were just talking about how difficult it is. It must be an extremely difficult thing to start off as an actor. And I was asking Joanna and Lon, what separates certain people from others when they're acting? How I'm sure there are some unbelievable actors out there that never get recognized for their talent. So what separates certain people?
Well, I think there are probably more actors. I'm just trying to find a spot that's fuck it.
Yeah, whatever you want. You look fine. You look great.
Thanks.
Did you get rid of all your long hair?
I'm certain that there are more actors that are talented. There you go. That's what I'm trying to do. It's hard. It's like looking in the mirror. Okay, there you go. It's not looking good today, folks. I'm certain there are more actors that are talented and not working than there are untalented actors that work.
Sure.
I'm certain of that.
Well,
sorry, go on.
The acting union has at any one time like 95% unemployment.
I think that's generous. I think it's more like 98.
Right. And what separates a working actor from a non-working actor who's just as talented? Luck.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just luck. And work begets work. Once
That's
you get
true.
rolling, they usually, if you're a nice enough guy.
So David.
Well, I was going to say,
business.
one thing I should say about David, though, is that people in the industry that know him or know of him, David has a very good reputation.
He's Johnny on the spot, man. He really is.
Yes. David has a very good reputation as being
Come on.
I know. No, but even when you were young, like when you were a teenager, and working with teenagers can be a royal pain in the ass, David was always there, ready to work. Like he never created drama on the set. And people know that. It gets around.
Lon, now you know Lon because he was your teacher.
Well, kind of. Actually, he wasn't a classroom teacher of David's.
Okay. Now this was early
but
on.
I want to hear David's story.
Okay.
Because I've heard that he tells this story. So, David, you're on.
Lon was the director of. Well, he was sort of. There wasn't a drama department, but there was every year the junior high school I went to, Halsey Junior High School, on I don't know where it is, but
Rego Park.
every year they did a play, and Lon was the director of that year's play, which was Bye Bye Birdie, and he cast me, and one day. The way it works, I guess, with open calls is that they go, at least in New York, is they go to schools and they hand out flyers to teachers and they say, hey, if you have a kid that kind of looks like this and you think is funny or charismatic or interesting at all, send them down.
I had no idea.
Cast them in this thing.
I had no idea they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Have they done that a lot to you, Lon?
They came into 67 every once in a while.
Okay. I had no idea.
So Lon alerted me to this audition for this Broadway play called Conversations with My Father, which was written by Herb Gardner, and on a fluke, I sort of went down there. I had kind of been interested in acting, sort of, but the key was that I looked like Judd Hirsch, who was going to play the father in Conversations with My Father. And another friend of mine, a kid named Billy Eichner, who's now a very successful stand-up
Is he
in
really?
New York, who I've recently gotten in contact with. What's that?
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, you got to check him out on YouTube.
I did
YouTube
not realize
Billy
that.
Eichner. He's amazing. He's
Wow.
crazy funny.
Billy,
Oh, cool.
Billy
Yeah,
Eichner.
and he's on Twitter, and he's brilliant.
Oh, okay.
Billy
Anyway.
Billy Eichner played the part that Dick Van Dyke played.
He actually played the lead.
Okay.
David played the kid brother.
Okay.
Right.
Because
I
you were
played
only
Randolph McAfee.
yeah, weren't you only like in 7th grade at the time?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because some of them were 9th graders, so he was young.
I
And-
believe it
and
was 7.
small.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I just went in and I auditioned like 6 or 7 times, and it was just crazy. It kept getting crazier because I kept getting called in, and there were less and less kids each time.
Yeah.
And
Very honestly, I
you
thought
know,
David was going to go to an audition and get an audition experience. That's
Oh,
really what I thought.
that's what you thought.
as did I.
Yeah.
That's what I thought as well. And it's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me, obviously.
David is
And,
the reason that I ever appeared in, when you get the playbills.
Yeah.
My name has appeared in a playbill. I can check that off my bucket list.
Yes.
Because David thanked me in his program.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he invited us to the
What?
opening night party of Conversations with My Father, which
Oh, that's
was very
great.
nice of him. Yeah.
See, I kind of have a similar story. Lon, I met up with Lon after a couple of years of not seeing him. This is about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years now. And we met up at Tequila Sunrise on Bell Boulevard.
Right after I had finished biking across the country.
Yeah, right after you finished. And we were talking about what we want to do. And you were talking about how this is something, you're talking about your bucket list. And you asked me, like, what is something that you've always wanted to do? And I said, well, I've always wanted to be on the radio. And he goes, well, why aren't you doing it? And I said, I don't know. Let's work. And he goes, why don't you just do it on your own? You could do something on the internet. And I ended up doing this. And I thank Lon for ruining my life.
There you go.
He single-handedly ruined my life.
Jessica
Yeah.
thanks him too.
You
Lon's a very inspiring man, and I remember distinctly that he was all about doing something wonderfully creative. And there was no, sometimes you do these school plays and it's like a teacher is teaching you how to do the play, and
Yeah.
it's not really a creatively enriching or enlightening experience. But I remember Lon really bleeding for it and living.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was my first year, and I was really trying to impress. I was not.
That
not-
what
I remember Lon fighting to paint the theater room, the room that you were teaching in the basement
Yeah.
in 67, painted eggplant.
Yeah.
You were fighting them to paint it eggplant. And you
Yes.
finally got it painted, and then they moved you out of that room and put you
Yes.
Yeah.
in the chorus room. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
David, that experience was for us a nightmare.
Painting it eggplant?
No, Bye Bye Birdie.
Bye
Bye Bye
Birdie.
Birdie.
It was a nightmare. With possible exception of yourself, you were not a nightmare, but most of the kids were.
Well, it has to be tough, right?
Right.
I mean, David has to stand out because you found the passion for this, where a lot of kids are doing it for whatever strange reason they're doing it.
Oh,
They're not doing
please.
it because they enjoy doing it.
We used to have we had to hunt some of them down at intermission because they were getting high.
No.
Oh yeah.
David, though, I gotta say, when David walked in, I said he reminds me of Billy Crystal, like at 13. That's what it felt like to me, because he would just move an eyebrow and people would laugh.
My theater experience, Lon, I was in 5th grade. I was Mr. Wiener in the Rats of Hamlin.
Mr.
A
Wiener.
rendition of the Pied Piper of
David's
Hamlin.
always wanted to play that role too.
Yeah. I played Mr. Wiener, and my line
Yes.
was, I'm tired of these silly proclamations. That was it.
That was it.
That was it. They
And
wouldn't.
is that the way you did it?
Just like that.
Genius.
Genius, right?
Genius.
David, I have to say, for some time now, I've kind of had a bone to pick with you.
Oh, here it goes.
Well, before you pick the bone, I just want to say 2 things. I'm happy to see you both. I don't want any confrontation or trouble. You're welcome to slam me if you want. No, and happy birthday, Lon.
Thank you.
It's crazy. Okay,
Here it
go
comes,
ahead.
Joe.
Go ahead, but pick the bone.
I will pick the bone. You murdered that nice Kellie Martin on ER. I've been angry at you ever since.
Yeah, do you want to hear some cool stories about that?
Go
I
at
would
it.
love to.
So I auditioned for the part, got it, went in, and And like the first day of shooting, Kellie Martin comes up to me and she says, "Hey, I got to tell you something. I just found out about this yesterday. I didn't know they were going to kill me off the show, and I'm really upset about it."
Oh, wow.
She must have known that I had known a week prior, and that the world had known a week prior, because that's when I auditioned for it.
Ooh.
At least the industry had known. So she was really devastated.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
And so it was sad. I had to be really sensitive to her. I mean, she was being kicked off, the number 1 show on television at the time. Yeah, but she was really, really nice about it in the end. And it's funny, man. I didn't realize how scary it was. When I watched it, I thought it was funny to see myself as like a crazy person.
No, you were scary. You were scary.
Yeah, and then I showed it to my friend because I was proud of it. I showed it to my friend who's an amazing actor from the Bronx, actually, a guy named Kevin Corrigan. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a really amazing actor. And I showed it to him, and his only response was, "David, you shouldn't do that to people." meaning like I shouldn't scare the crap out of people.
You
But I
really
didn't
were scary.
intend to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you really were.
You killed someone on.
Didn't you, on Law and Order too? Didn't you?
Well, I organized I organized for him to be killed.
Oh, you went
yeah.
into upper management. Okay, great.
And on Law and Order, no, yes, that's correct.
So, how many people have you killed on in your acting career?
Wow, that's a good question. I think only those 2.
Okay, you know what my favorite thing that you've done is?
Oh boy, I'm too okay, go ahead.
You know why? No, because you don't mention it ever, and I think sometimes I often wonder if there's something that someone really likes, but they don't kind of mention it because it's sacred or because no one else mentions it, so they feel like silly. But I always loved you in Liberty Heights. I always thought Liberty Heights was amazing.
Thank you.
I happen
that
to
was
really.
a great one.
I
kind
love
of
that
channeled
movie.
my dad on that one.
Did you really?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I really like that. That's one of those movies that I think never got the exposure it should have. I think it's a lovely little movie, and we both really liked it, and I think it never really got the play that it should have.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie visually as well. It's shot by this great DP, and it's a sweet and sort of important story, really.
It is.
And it's trying to draw parallels between, sort of racist stereotypes at that time and present. And so he originally, at one point, it was always called Liberty Heights, but at one point they were toying with the idea of calling it Jews, Whites, and Blacks.
Oh, really?
Something like that. And
Well, there's a band name. There's our show name.
Yeah.
we were all staying in Baltimore, and the producer asked us if we thought that was a good idea, and we all were like, "No."
Now, David,
Liberty
what I
Heights
want
sounds better.
You know what I want to know, and I used to watch Numbers nearly every week. How much homework did you have to do for that role? Because you played a mathematician that's a genius, and you're solving the crimes. Was there any kind of homework you had to do off the set to kind of make it believable when you're throwing these terminologies out there?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, for me, I understood very early on that there was no way. I didn't have that kind of brain that I would understand the concepts. At best, I would get the gist. But what I did know was that it was important to sort of pick up on the character of the mathematician, and so I spent a lot of time at Caltech out here in Pasadena, and just kind of observed math students, math professors, physics professors, and tried to sort of pick up and mimic the earnestness with which they sort of taught and learned, and their belief in this sort of this higher system of knowledge, this mathematics, and how deeply ingrained that belief was in them.
That and the
almost like a religion for them.
Right, you have to see it as a passion.
Yeah.
Right, and so I spent a lot of time there, and I always sort of kept close to that ideal in portraying him, even when the series got kind of monotonous and, we started to do strange things on the show, which was inevitable with any show. It was always important for me to keep the work honest to the characters that I had observed and then continue to observe. And it also helped to have, the head of the math department at Caltech was our consultant, and he was a very sort of earnest, wonderfully nerdy type guy. And he was always around. And so, I would always gravitate toward him just to reaffirm, that character type, when I was 4 or 5 seasons in. But in terms of understanding the concepts, I found that it was better not to understand the concepts. And I'll tell you why, because
That's interesting.
I wouldn't memorize my dialogue. It was too difficult. So I'd wait till the last minute. I'd wait till the day of to memorize whatever, math monologue I might have. And so in doing so, I felt like there was a spontaneity to the manner in which I performed those words that came off. It was spontaneous to me, but it came off as wonder to the audience.
Right.
And it came off like I knew exactly what I was talking about, but I was really intrigued and really and inspired when I said it, when really I was just sort of getting it as I was saying it.
David.
And that kind of, I realized that that's what I used to get it right, I guess.
David, we were just wondering, is it coincidental that Judd Hirsch was on that show playing your father, or did anyone approach one of you when you thought of the other, or how did that?
Well, it was coincidental to an extent. There's only a few guys that can play my dad. It's like a short list. It's like, Henry Winkler, Richard Benjamin, Alan Arkin, Judd Hirsch,
Dog the Bounty Hunter. Yeah.
Ben Gazzara or something. So I knew he was in the mix, and I sort of let them know that it would be great if he was the guy. But that had nothing to do with it. I mean, he doesn't need me to get him a part. I needed him to get the part I got when I was a kid, but he's such an amazing actor. So.
Yes, he is.
And it was amazing it just was a great moment when I found out that he was going to do numbers. I knew it was going to be a hit when he signed on. I just knew
that's
it.
great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I totally understand where you're coming from with what you're talking about in terms of the spontaneity at the end. You'll be proud to know that one of the highlights of my acting career along the way, I ended up playing a Holocaust revisionist.
Nice.
Yeah, a guy said didn't happen. This really great play by a guy named Peter Sagal called Denial. And the rest of the cast except Joanna and the one black girl was Jewish. And I used to have to leave the room during rehearsals so I could come back in as Lon because they just hated me during rehearsals. And it was really, really starting to eat me. And eventually I said, the hook that I found was I took the same excitement that I had about teaching Shakespeare and just applied it to the stuff that he was teaching in the play. And it was the only way to do it. It was the weirdest thing I've ever done.
I think that's great. I mean, especially if you're playing a deplorable character, you got to sort of find, if you're not a deplorable person, which Lon, you're definitely not, you got to find some.
And to make the guy not deplorable,
to sort of mimic.
Very few people sit there and actually wring their hands like Mr. Burns,
Well,
that's right. Yeah, that's true.
After you did
your
one,
shirt is
somebody
hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
He was wondering if
awesome.
people would notice.
Yeah,
That's
that was a
excellent.
gift from a friend.
Excellent. I wanted to ask, what is the most difficult part of being an actor? And I ask Lon and Joanna this all the time, and they give me different answers. But for you, as it's something that you've found either irritating or something you've struggled with, what is that aspect of being an actor that's extremely difficult for you?
Well, there's a difference between being an actor and being a professional actor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference.
That's true.
And there are stresses that come along with both. But, being an actor, period, is a pretty wonderful experience because it's just you and your instrument and your voice and your essence. Sometimes though, you have to delve into some pain, and that's always kind of difficult. And there's something that comes with being an actor. There's a greater access to emotionality and sensitivity that kind of plays roles in your life outside of acting that have to be dealt with somehow, coped with somehow. In terms of being a professional actor is probably the most annoying thing in the world. I mean, it really is, because you're selling your soul each time you're out there auditioning, trying to get a job. There are very few people that are willing to understand that. And then there's this sort of school of hard knocks vibe that you get, where it's like, too bad, so sad, that's what you chose to do. For me in particular, I never really chose to be an actor. I kind of got lucky. So there was a period of time where I had to sort of look myself in the mirror and decide if I wanted to keep going. Because, what we hear is true about Hollywood, that there are phonies and, there are a-holes, and there are people who have no business being involved in a creative field that have power over you.
Right.
So, there's a lot of that can be very aggravating. And in general, just being out of work, going from job to job, I've been incredibly fortunate to not have to deal with that too much in my career. And it's incredible because, you really, acting is a high, just like any other high. And in the way that it's a high, it's a way to escape pain. It's a way to distract yourself from pain. And
that's true.
That is true. Yeah.
It's absolutely true. And so when you're not acting, when you're trying to get a job, you're sitting with the pain, and that can be very uncomfortable. It's good for you, but it can be very, very uncomfortable. And so I truly admire actors who stick with it after, years of not working or whatever it is. I'm not sure I could ever do that. I'm spoiled to the point now where, I'm out of work for 3 months and I'm ready to throw myself off a bridge,
Yeah, your resume is incredible. I mean, you really went from one thing to another most of the time. You really did.
Well, I'm a lucky guy. I'll be honest with you. This past year has been really interesting because, I'm coming off a 6-year run on a series, which was like, it was just like a vortex, a wonderful vortex. And I calculated that I've worked 14 days total out of the last 10 months.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so, this has been one of the longest periods of not doing anything that I've had in a very long time. And, it's been tough. It's been tough.
Are you getting pigeonholed as the math genius? Is that the only roles you're being offered now?
No, thank goodness. For a second there, it was always like the tech guy, and I just won't audition for those roles because I'm trying to not do that. Not cover the same ground. I'm
series.
kind of typecast as a Jew, but
Well, yeah, I mean, you're in Harold and Kumar, and they're doing a new one, and you're Goldstein in there, so.
But I could play an Armenian, couldn't I? I get
very easily. Very easily.
That's why I shave the head, because this way I can play anything.
Yeah, you could play.
Except maybe Goldilocks.
You could play a gangster. You could play a gangster, a bruiser of some sort.
I just got cast as a Russian gangster. I'm going to wear the tracksuit and the Italian loafers.
You look great in that. Yeah. You have the tattoo, so it works.
Yeah.
If the funding
you could
for
also
the film
just
ever
as
gets
easily
off the ground.
play a professor, or the head looks good.
I don't know. I don't think there are many roles that I could play.
Everyone gives me compliments on the head, but you have to know that it's a big risk. I didn't know that it was good until I shaved it. So I had a collection of hats and bandanas all ready to go, but I was pretty good.
I think it looks good. I've toyed with the idea of shaving my head, but I realized I'd look a lot like Nosferatu.
Hey, David.
Probably not good for my head.
I personally liked your hair long.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, I'm having a bad hair moment today, but it's not bad short. Um,
I
well,
like.
thank
I
you. I
happen to
like
like.
long, but it was
Joe
a pain
has
in
a
the,
thing
pain
for
in the
long
ass. I don't
hair.
know how you women do it. It's a pain in the ass.
I have a thing for guys with long hair. I do.
Which is why I shave my head, obviously.
Right. My ears would get hot. And I couldn't,
I did it. I shaved it when I crossed the country on the bike because it was just cooler and less maintenance.
I don't think that could ever happen with
And then
me.
No.
and then my acting coach said, "Just keep this. This is a whole set of new roles for you." So,
cool. That's awesome, man.
David, when did you go from being in your opinion, when did you go from being David Krumholtz to like David Krumholtz in quotations, like that guy that gets recognized? When for you? When did you know that you kind of made it? That you were the actor finally? At what point?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think I started to get recognized after the first Santa Claus movie a lot.
Yeah.
I felt like I had earned some respect as an actor after a movie I did called Sidewalks of New York.
But I mean, the
some
resume.
some respect from others, and I think I've only recently developed an iota of respect for myself as an actor, to be honest.
But David,
I have high
you go down the
standards for
list.
myself.
You
It
go
takes
down
a
the
long
list.
time. You're your own worst critic all the time.
I mean,
know
look
that.
at it. 10 Things I
Yeah.
Hate About You, Freaks and Geeks, which was an amazing series. The list goes on and
I only
on.
did one episode, but thank you. I'll take credit for the whole series.
Yeah, I
But
did-
you know what's funny? I was talking to one of the guys that does production for us, and I said, I said your name to him, and he goes, "Oh, he was in Freaks and Geeks. He
Yeah,
knew
see
you
that?
from that." And it's so funny. I'm like, Harold and Kumar. Let's go down the list. You
Well,
were in so many great things, and he goes, "No, Freaks and Geeks. That's what I remember him from."
My little fuzzy Jewish face has been practically sewn into the great American pop culture quilt.
Yes, it has. Well, I actually remember they constantly ran the commercial for the slums of Beverly Hills with you singing in your underwear. I
Yeah.
mean,
and I proudly said, I knew
know
that.
him.
I know him.
You know what's funny is I look back on that movie now and I can't believe I was that naked in that movie. I am naked throughout that entire movie.
You
and I don't
are.
know- I was so high. I don't know what I was smoking, but I'm not sure I would do that now.
Now you said you've gone 10 months. You've just got a new series though, right?
Yes.
Tell me about it. What's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty good. I need to work, so it's a good thing. I got a show called it's called the Playboy Club. It's going to be on NBC. It premieres September 19th, Monday nights at 10 p.m. And it's
Right after our
set-
show.
That's right.
That's right.
It's set. So maybe I'll come back on September 19th and do
That'd
this
be
again,
great.
Absolutely, that'd be
That'd be
great.
super.
or sooner.
There you go.
That'd be super.
But
If you're ever in
'cause I
Queens, you're
enjoy-
welcome
this
here.
is
You know
enjoyable.
that. And at the house.
Do you come out to Queens at all?
My mom and dad still live in, yeah. Oh, sure.
Oh, do they?
I own the apartment that I grew up in the Continental Building in Forest Hills,
See, and I
across the street from the Ridgewood Bank. And my dad lives across the street from Yellowstone Park off of Yellowstone Boulevard.
So they're still
So
there.
yeah, I'm there all the time.
Oh wow.
Very cool. Yeah, you're welcome
Yeah.
here, man. If you want to come, is the it's about the Playboy Club in its glory days? Like, what's the
1963.
I
at
was
the
going to
first-
say, I thought so from looking at it. It looked period.
Yeah, 1963 at the first Playboy Club in Chicago, and I play the manager of the club. And there's lots of goings on, including some not so savory goings on.
Of course.
And it's really about sort of the turmoil of those times and that city and that particular world.
Wow, very
and it's really
cool.
kind of told more from the bunny's perspective, which is really interesting. I play the sort of put upon curmudgeon-y, tough
You're already-
manager who.
You're already doing craggy but benign.
Yeah.
Nice.
My
Yeah,
favorite type of role, the curmudgeon.
I finally hit my Harvey Keitel phase.
There you
Yes,
go.
there you go.
My Rod Steiger, if you will.
There you go.
from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Listen, David, thank you so much. I'm
man.
glad to see you. I'm so glad that you're doing
I'm
well.
glad to see you and talk to you twice today, and like, it's just, I'm very humbled that you're a great guy, and so are you, Joanna. You're a
Thank
great
you.
guy.
You're a great guy
It's
too,
nice
Joanna.
to
You're a great
do
guy,
it.
And listen, I know it's a year, but congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you very much. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, we know.
We're
know.
still working on
We're
it.
still working
We
on
don't
it.
have kids. We say we're still raising each other.
other.
So.